My name is Lillian, and I turned 31 on a Tuesday in March when my mother-in-law handed me divorce papers wrapped in silver paper with a bow on top. I thought I'd be celebrating with a normal dinner after 5 years of trying to earn this family's acceptance. I walked into that restaurant expecting warmth, maybe a cake. Instead, I got a gift that changed everything. From all of us, she announced with a cold smile while my husband recorded my reaction on his phone for their entertainment. I thanked her, signed every page right there, and walked out. They had no idea I'd been preparing for this exact moment, and they were about to find out at her luxury birthday party. Before I tell you how I made them regret every single thing they did, tell me in the comments where you're watching this from. If you've ever been underestimated by your in-laws, hit that like button. And subscribe, because what happened at that birthday party will absolutely shock you. 5 years ago, I met Derek at a coffee shop in Boston on a rainy October afternoon. He was 33, wore an expensive suit, and worked at his family's investment firm downtown. Everything about him screamed success and stability. Our first date turned into 3 hours of conversation that felt like 20 minutes. He was charming, attentive, and made me feel like the only person in the room. We dated for 12 months before he proposed, and during that time, he was everything I'd hoped for in a partner. He remembered the little things, surprised me with thoughtful gestures, and talked about our future together. I was a third-grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary, earning a modest salary but absolutely loving my job. There's something magical about watching 8-year-olds discover they can read chapter books or solve math problems they thought were impossible. I grew up in Cleveland, the daughter of hardworking parents who taught me the value of honesty and effort. My father spent 30 years as a mechanic, coming home every evening with grease stains on his hands and pride in his work. My mother was a nurse who pulled double shifts at the hospital to help pay for my education. They sacrificed so much to give me opportunities they never had, and I'd always been proud of my roots. Meeting Derek's family should have prepared me for what was coming, but I was too in love to see the warning signs clearly. 8 months into our relationship, Derek drove me out to meet his parents at their estate in the suburbs. The house sat on 3 acres of perfectly manicured lawn with a circular driveway and columns framing the entrance. I felt intimidated before I even stepped out of the car. Patricia opened the door wearing designer clothes and a smile that never reached her eyes. She was 58 years old, elegant in that cold, untouchable way some wealthy women master. As Derek introduced us, she looked me over from head to toe like she was evaluating a purchase she wasn't sure she wanted to make. How charming, she said when Derek mentioned I taught elementary school. But her tone suggested teaching was a hobby rather than a real profession. Richard, Derek's father, was 60 years old and even less warm than his wife. He shook my hand, once nodded, and spent most of the dinner reading the Wall Street Journal in his study. Stephanie, Derek's older sister, had just turned 35 and recently moved back home after her divorce. She seemed to enjoy making me uncomfortable, asking questions designed to highlight the differences between our backgrounds. "Where did your family vacation?" she asked over appetizers. When I explained we usually went camping at state parks, the silence that followed felt heavy and judgmental. Patricia quickly changed the subject, but I caught the look she exchanged with Stephanie. The wedding proved to be the first real test of what I was getting into. Derek proposed on a beach at sunset, and I was so happy I cried. But when we started planning the wedding, Patricia took control immediately. "Don't worry, dear," she said sweetly. "We'll handle everything." I thought she was being generous, helping a young couple plan their special day. Instead, she steamrolled every decision. I wanted a small ceremony with close family and friends. She insisted on 200 guests at the country club. I suggested wildflowers for the arrangements. She ordered orchids and roses that cost more than my monthly salary. My family was seated in the back corner, surrounded by Derek's business associates and Patricia's society friends. I felt like a prop in someone else's production. After the wedding, we moved into an apartment Derek had purchased near his parents' home. He thought being close to family would be nice, and I agreed because I wanted to make him happy. For the first 2 years, I tried everything to win Patricia's approval. Every Sunday we had dinner at their house, and I showed up with a smile no matter how I was feeling. I learned to cook Patricia's favorite dishes, complimented her taste, and never disagreed with her opinions. I studied the way she liked things arranged, the topics she found acceptable for conversation, and the manners she expected. But nothing I did seemed good enough. "That's not how we do things in this family" became her favorite phrase. Or she'd sigh deeply and mention how Derek deserved someone who truly understood his world. Derek kept reassuring me. "Mom just needs time," he'd say. "She's protective of me, but she'll warm up eventually." I believed him because I wanted to. I kept trying, kept hoping, kept thinking that the next Sunday dinner might be the one where Patricia finally accepted me. But acceptance never came. Instead, the criticisms became more frequent, the comparisons more pointed, and the exclusion more obvious. The shift happened gradually during our 3rd year of marriage, so subtle at first that I almost didn't notice. Patricia started mentioning Amanda more frequently at family dinners. Amanda was Derek's college girlfriend, someone from their social circle who Patricia had apparently adored. "You remember Amanda, don't you, darling?" she'd say to Derek over the roast chicken. Such a lovely girl. Her father was a prominent surgeon. Amanda always had such refined taste in everything. She'd glance at me when she said these things, gauging my reaction. I tried not to let it bother me, but each mention felt like a paper cut. Small, but they added up. Stephanie joined in enthusiastically, sharing memories of double dates and family vacations that included Amanda. She fit in so perfectly with us, Stephanie would say, her voice dripping with implication. "I really never understood why you two broke up, Derek." The worst part was Derek's silence. He never defended me, never told his mother and sister to stop. He'd just keep eating, pretending not to notice the tension building at the table. On the drive home, I'd ask him why he didn't say anything. "They're just talking," he'd reply. "Don't be so sensitive." But it felt like more than just talking. It felt like they were erasing me, replacing me with the memory of someone they'd preferred. Patricia started organizing family events without including me. She planned a spa weekend for the ladies and invited Stephanie, her country club friends, and their daughters. I only found out about it when I saw photos on social media. When I asked Patricia about it later, she acted surprised. "Oh, I didn't realize you'd be interested in that type of thing," she said dismissively, as if spa treatments were beyond my comprehension or desire. During holiday meals, she'd assign cooking responsibilities to everyone except me. When I volunteered to bring something, she'd wave me off. "Just show up, dear. We have it covered." Then she'd complain loudly to guests about doing everything herself while I stood uselessly in the corner. The comments about finances started creeping in around this time. Patricia would tell Derek how hard he worked and how important it was to protect his assets. "Not everyone brings the same value to a marriage," she'd say, looking pointedly at me. "I'm just a teacher," I wanted to shout. "That doesn't make me worthless." Richard got involved too, suggesting Derek set up separate investment accounts, just to be smart about things, he said. I overheard this conversation through the partially open door of Richard's study one Sunday. My stomach dropped. Later, when I confronted Derek, he became defensive. "It's just smart financial planning," he insisted. "Why are you making this into something it's not?" Derek started changing too. He came home later and later from work. Business dinners, he'd claim. Important clients. When he was home, he seemed distant, distracted. He spent more time on calls with his mother than conversations with me. Our relationship, which had once felt warm and connected, grew cold and formal. I'd suggest we go out like we used to, try to recreate those early dates that had felt so magical. He'd find excuses. Too tired. Too much work. Maybe next month. But next month he'd be playing golf with his father or having lunch with his sister. The man I'd married was disappearing, and I didn't know how to bring him back. Everything crystallized on an ordinary Tuesday morning in February. Derek had rushed out early for a breakfast meeting and left his phone charging on the kitchen counter. I wasn't in the habit of checking his phone, had never felt the need. We'd always trusted each other. But when it buzzed with a text notification and I glanced at the screen, I saw something that made me pick it up. The message was from a group chat I'd never heard of before. Family Only, it was called. I knew Derek's password because he'd given it to me years ago. His birthday, simple and trusting. I unlocked the phone with shaking hands. The messages I found knocked the breath out of my lungs. Scrolling back through 2 months of conversation, I saw the conspiracy laid out in black and white. Patricia had written, "We need to do something about the Lillian situation." Stephanie responded within minutes. "Completely agree. Derek could do so much better. Someone more suitable." Richard chimed in with, "Let's discuss this at Sunday dinner. We need a plan." And then Derek's response, the one that shattered whatever hope I'd been clinging to. "I know. I've been thinking about it too. I'm working on it." I sat on the cold tile floor, scrolling through more messages. Patricia suggested they encourage a separation. Derek deserves someone from our world, she wrote. Someone who understands our lifestyle and expectations. Derek replied, "Give me some time. I need to figure out the logistics first. The financial aspects." I felt physically sick. My husband, the man who'd promised to love me through everything, was conspiring with his family to end our marriage. They'd been planning this for months, discussing me like I was a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be removed. When Derek came home that evening, I didn't wait for the right moment or try to approach it gently. I confronted him immediately. "What did you mean when you told your mother you're working on getting rid of me?" I demanded. His face went white. "You went through my phone," he said, his voice tight with anger rather than guilt. "Answer my question," I shot back. Derek was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Look, Lillian, things haven't been working out the way I thought they would. My family has concerns about our compatibility. And you agree with them," I said flatly. Derek looked away. "I don't know anymore. You just don't fit into my life the way I'd hoped. You don't understand our world." The argument that followed was brutal. I accused him of being weak, of letting his mother control every aspect of his life. He accused me of being paranoid and making something out of nothing. We said things designed to wound words we couldn't unsay. Finally, Derek grabbed his car keys. "I'm staying at my parents' tonight," he announced. "We both need space to think." He didn't come back for 3 days, and during those 3 days, I made decisions that would change everything. I called Jessica immediately. She'd been my best friend since college, a corporate lawyer with a sharp mind and zero tolerance for nonsense. She'd never liked Derek's family, had warned me they were toxic from the beginning. When I told her everything about the messages and Derek's admission, she was furious. "I told you that family was trouble," she said. "But now we need to focus on protecting you. These people have money and connections, Lillian. You can't just hope this works out. You need legal advice now." The next morning, Jessica connected me with Mr. Harrison, a divorce attorney with 25 years of experience. He was a distinguished man in his 50s who listened to my story without interruption. When I showed him screenshots of the family-only chat, he nodded thoughtfully. "This is a clear case of a family attempting to manipulate you out of the marriage so they can maintain control over the assets. Massachusetts law is on your side here. You're entitled to equitable distribution." He gave me specific instructions. "Start documenting everything. Financial records, text messages, emails. Anything that shows their behavior or your contributions to the marriage. Keep detailed records of your own finances, too." I followed his advice meticulously. Over the next week, I took screenshots of every damning conversation I could find. I discovered more when I accessed Derek's laptop using a password he'd shared with me months ago. There were email exchanges between Patricia and the family attorney asking about prenuptial agreements and how to enforce them. We didn't have a prenup because Derek had insisted he trusted me completely when we got married. Now I understood why they were asking. They wanted to find any way to leave me with nothing. I also found evidence that Derek had been systematically moving money from our joint savings account. $150,000 transferred in small increments over 6 months to an account I didn't know existed. I opened my own checking account at a completely different bank. I redirected my teaching salary there and stopped depositing it into our joint account. I made copies of all our financial documents, property deeds, tax returns from the past 5 years. Every receipt, every statement, every piece of paper that proved I'd contributed to our household. Jessica helped me organize everything into a comprehensive file. "If they want war," she said grimly, "we're going to be prepared." 3 weeks before my birthday, Derek came home acting strangely cheerful. The tension between us had been thick for days, conversations reduced to necessary exchanges about bills and schedules, but that night he smiled at me over dinner like nothing had happened. "We should do something special for your birthday this year," he said casually. I looked at him suspiciously. "What did you have in mind?" He leaned back in his chair. "Actually, my family wants to take you out. Mom suggested Le Bernardin. You know that French place you've always wanted to try. She wants to celebrate properly." Every instinct I had screamed that this was a trap. Patricia had never wanted to celebrate anything about me before. Why would she suddenly suggest an expensive dinner at one of the city's most exclusive restaurants? "What's the real reason?" I asked Derek carefully. He looked hurt by the question. "Can't my family just want to do something nice for you? Mom feels bad about how things have been. She wants to make an effort. I didn't believe a word of it, but I played along." "That sounds lovely," I said. "Thank you." The next afternoon, Patricia called me directly, which rarely happened unless she needed something. "Lillian, dear," she said in that saccharine voice she used when she wanted something, "we'd really love to make your birthday special this year. Just a nice family dinner, nothing too elaborate." I thanked her and hung up, then immediately called Jessica. "They're definitely planning something," I told her. "I can feel it in my bones." "Then make sure you're ready," Jessica advised. "Keep your phone on you. Record everything if you can. Document whatever they do." The week leading up to my birthday felt surreal. Derek was attentive in a way he hadn't been in months. He asked about my day at school, made conversation during meals, even suggested we watch a movie together one evening. It all felt like performance, like he was checking boxes on a list someone had given him. I played along, acting like I believed this sudden change of heart was genuine. But inside, I was preparing myself mentally for whatever they had planned. I knew it wouldn't be good. My 31st birthday arrived on a Tuesday. That morning, Derek brought me coffee in bed, something he used to do when we first got married but hadn't done in over a year. "Happy birthday," he said, kissing my forehead. The gesture felt hollow. I smiled and thanked him anyway. "Don't forget we're meeting everyone at 7 tonight," he reminded me. I spent the day at school teaching, grateful for the distraction. My students sang happy birthday and presented me with handmade cards covered in glitter and crayon drawings. Their innocence and genuine affection made me want to cry. Whatever happened tonight, at least I had this. At least I had something real. I went home at 6 and changed into a simple black dress. Nothing too fancy, but appropriate for an upscale restaurant. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and gave myself a pep talk. Whatever they throw at you tonight, you walk out with your head high. You don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you break. You've got this. Derek and I drove to the restaurant mostly in silence. The tension was palpable. When we arrived, I saw that Patricia, Richard, and Stephanie were already seated at a prominent table near the windows. "Happy birthday," Derek said as I sat down, but his smile looked forced. The dinner started awkwardly. Patricia dominated the conversation, talking to Richard and Stephanie while barely acknowledging my presence. Stephanie brought up Amanda yet again. "I saw Amanda last week at the club," she said brightly. "She asked about you, Derek. She's doing so well now." Patricia jumped in. "Oh, yes, Amanda always was such a successful girl, so accomplished. Remember when she used to join us for Sunday dinners? Those were pleasant times." I ate my meal quietly, watching them perform this charade. Derek kept checking his watch like he was waiting for something. After the main course was cleared, Patricia tapped her wine glass with her knife. The sound cut through the ambient noise of the restaurant. Now she announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear it's time for the birthday gift. Stephanie stood up and retrieved a large box from somewhere under the table. It was wrapped in silver paper with an elaborate satin bow. Derek pulled out his phone and held it up, aiming the camera at me. "Let me capture this moment," he said, hitting record. His finger was clearly on the button. The red light glowed. He was filming. I took the box with steady hands. Everyone was watching me intently, waiting for something. I could feel the anticipation radiating from them. I unwrapped the silver paper, carefully folded it aside, and opened the box. Inside was a manila envelope. I opened it and pulled out the contents. Divorce papers. Every page filled out completely except for my signature lines. My name, Derek's name, division of assets, terms of separation. All prepared by their attorney. All ready to finalize. I looked up slowly. Patricia, Richard. Stephanie and Derek were all watching me with expressions ranging from anticipation to barely concealed glee. From all of us, Patricia announced, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "We thought it was time you returned to where you truly belong. It's really for the best, dear." Stephanie covered her mouth but couldn't hide her laughter. "This is absolutely priceless," she whispered to her mother. Derek's phone was still recording, zoomed in on my face, waiting to capture my devastation for their entertainment. "Don't cause a scene now," Richard said quietly. "We're offering you a clean exit. Just take it gracefully." People at neighboring tables had stopped eating to watch. I could feel their eyes on us since the whispers starting. Patricia's smile was triumphant. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd humiliated me beyond recovery. They all did. They were waiting for tears, for begging for an emotional breakdown they could replay and laugh about later. But I didn't give them what they wanted. Instead, I smiled calmly. "Thank you," I said clearly. Patricia's expression faltered slightly. "What?" I reached into my purse and pulled out a pen I'd placed there that morning. Not because I'd known exactly what they'd do, but because I'd known they'd do something. I flipped through the divorce papers, scanning each page quickly. Then I started signing my name on every line that required a signature. "What are you doing?" Patricia demanded, confusion replacing her satisfaction. "I'm signing them," I said without looking up. "This is what you want, isn't it?" Derek lowered his phone partway. "Wait, you can't just—" "Can't what?" I interrupted. "Accept your gift. Sign the papers your attorney prepared." I finished the last signature and pushed the completed stack across the table to Derek. "There, you're free." I stood up, picked up my purse, and looked directly at Patricia. "Thank you for this gift. It's exactly what I needed." "You ungrateful—" she started, but I held up my hand. "No, Patricia. Thank you for finally showing me your true colors, for proving what I already knew but didn't want to accept." I turned to Derek. "And thank you for being exactly who your mother raised you to be." Then I walked out of that restaurant with my spine straight and my head high, leaving them sitting in shocked silence. The other diners watched me go. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked horrified at what they'd witnessed. I didn't care. I'd just taken their power away with a simple signature, and they didn't even realize what I'd done yet. I drove straight to Jessica's apartment, my hands only starting to shake once I was safely away from that restaurant. She opened her door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. Tell me everything, she demanded. I sat on her couch and recounted the entire evening, every detail. When I got to the part about signing the papers right there in front of them, Jessica's eyes went wide with shock. Then unexpectedly she started laughing. "You signed them? Right there at the table?" I nodded. Jessica hugged me tight. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "But now what I'm not done," I told her firmly. "Not even close." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd discreetly taken of the divorce papers before signing them. "Look at these terms," I said. Jessica studied them, her lawyer brain immediately analyzing every clause. Her expression darkened with each page. "They're claiming you contributed nothing to the marriage," she said angrily. "They want you to walk away with absolutely nothing, not even your fair share of the apartment you both legally own. This is beyond insulting. It's probably illegal. I already signed it, though," I said. "What can we do now?" Jessica smiled slowly. "Now we use their arrogance against them." She explained that my signature on those papers didn't make the divorce final or legally binding. They still needed to file with the court, go through the proper legal process. And with the evidence we'd been collecting, the emotional abuse documentation, the proof of Derek's affair we were building, we could challenge everything. "But I have a better strategy," she said. "Let them think they've won. Let them believe you just rolled over and accepted their terms. Meanwhile, we file our own petition with fair terms based on actual law." The next morning, we had an emergency meeting with Mr. Harrison. He examined the papers I'd signed, read through the terms carefully, and shook his head. "This is sloppy work," he said. "They rushed this badly." He pointed out multiple problems. First, you signed under obvious duress during a public humiliation. Second, they didn't provide you time for independent legal counsel. Third, the asset division is grossly unfair and violates Massachusetts' equitable distribution laws. Any judge will see through this immediately. He leaned forward. "We can absolutely challenge this. But I suggest we take a different approach." Mr. Harrison proposed that we let the family believe their plan worked. Meanwhile, he would file a proper divorce petition on my behalf with fair terms supported by all our documentation. The emotional abuse evidence, the financial manipulation proof, the conspiracy messages from the family chat. Everything we'd gathered over the past month. "We'll build an ironclad case," he explained. "How much time do we have?" I asked. "These papers they had you sign need to be filed with the court within 60 days, or they become void," he said. "So we have a window to work with, and trust me, we're going to use it effectively." Over the next 2 weeks, I moved my belongings out of the apartment I'd shared with Derek. I found a small sublet across town, just temporary until things were settled. Derek didn't contact me even once. I heard through mutual friends that he was celebrating, telling people the divorce was already done. Patricia was apparently hosting dinners celebrating her success in removing me from the family. Their arrogance was astounding. But Jessica had one more card to play. She had a friend named Taylor who worked as a private investigator specializing in family law cases. "Can you do some surveillance on Derek and his family?" Jessica asked her. "I want to know what they're really up to." Taylor agreed immediately. Within a week, she returned with photographs and information that made everything click into place. Derek's been seeing someone Taylor reported spreading photos across Jessica's dining table. It's Amanda, his ex-girlfriend. The photos showed Derek and Amanda at restaurants, walking through parks, entering hotels together. Some images included Patricia and Stephanie clearly facilitating these meetings. "They've been planning this reunion for at least 4 months, Taylor said. "Long before your birthday." This wasn't a spontaneous decision. They orchestrated the entire thing to push you out so Derek could be with someone his mother approved of. I looked at the photos, feeling vindication more than pain. This was proof of everything. The conspiracy, the affair, the premeditation. This changes everything Mr. Harrison said when we showed him the evidence. This demonstrates clear intent to deceive and financial infidelity. We can absolutely use this. Then I saw something on social media that sparked an idea. Stephanie had posted enthusiastically about their mother's upcoming birthday party. "Can't wait for Mom's milestone 60th birthday celebration next month. It's going to be absolutely spectacular at the country club. Over 200 guests confirmed. It's going to be the social event of the season." I stared at that post, an idea forming in my mind. I showed it to Jessica. "Patricia's having a massive party. All her society friends, everyone whose opinion she values." Jessica caught on immediately. "You want to expose everything there? Where it will hurt her most." "Exactly," I confirmed. "Patricia cares about her reputation more than anything else. Her standing in the community, what people think of her. What if we reveal the truth at her precious party in front of everyone she's trying to impress?" Jessica grinned. "That's brilliant. But we need to be strategic. We can't just show up and make accusations. We need evidence they can't deny. Something visual and undeniable." We spent the next 2 weeks preparing a presentation that included screenshots of messages, photos from Taylor's investigation bank records showing Derek's financial manipulation, and recordings of conversations I'd captured. We practiced exactly what I would say, how I would present it. "This isn't about revenge," Jessica kept reminding me. "This is about revealing truth and protecting yourself legally." Patricia's 60th birthday party was scheduled for a Saturday evening in early April. The event was being held at the country club where she'd been a member for 30 years. I wasn't invited naturally. They probably assumed I'd slunk away quietly to lick my wounds. But I had different plans entirely. Jessica and I arrived at 8, about an hour after the party had started. I wore an elegant black dress, simple but sophisticated. My hair was styled in a neat updo. I wanted to look composed and unshakable. Jessica carried a laptop bag that contained everything we needed. We walked through the entrance like we belonged there. The main ballroom was decorated extravagantly with white roses, gold accents, and crystal chandeliers. Over 200 guests filled the space, all dressed in expensive clothes, holding champagne flutes. Patricia stood near the center of the room in a floor-length navy gown surrounded by admirers. She was glowing clearly in her element. Derek stood near the bar with Amanda at his side. His hand rested possessively on her lower back. They looked comfortable together like an established couple. Stephanie was introducing Amanda to various guests as Derek's girlfriend. My name wasn't mentioned once. It was as if I'd been erased from history. Richard called for attention and gave a toast praising Patricia's grace, elegance, and dedication to family. Everyone raised their glasses and applauded. Patricia beamed with satisfaction. Then the ballroom doors opened and I walked in. The room didn't go silent immediately, but people near the entrance noticed and stopped talking. Patricia saw me across the room and her face went pale as paper. "What are you doing here?" she hissed as I approached. I smiled pleasantly. "I came to give you a birthday gift." Derek pushed through the crowd urgently. "You need to leave right now," he said in a low, threatening voice. I ignored him completely and walked toward the small stage where Richard had just given his toast. I stepped up onto the platform and picked up the microphone that was still sitting there. "Good evening, everyone," I said, my voice amplified through the sound system cutting through the ambient conversation. "I'm sorry to interrupt this lovely celebration. My name is Lillian. I'm Derek's soon-to-be ex-wife." Now I had everyone's attention. Conversations died. People turned to stare. Patricia started moving toward the stage. "Security," she called out shrilly. "Get her out of here immediately." I held up my hand calmly. "Before I go, I think everyone here deserves to know the truth about this family and what they've done." Jessica appeared beside the stage with the laptop connecting it quickly to the projector screen that had been showing a slideshow of Patricia's life. The screen changed to a black slide with white text. "For 5 years, I began speaking clearly and steadily into the microphone. I tried to become part of this family. I respected their traditions, followed their rules, and did everything I could to earn their acceptance. But Patricia never accepted me for one simple reason. I wasn't wealthy enough. I wasn't from the right background. I didn't meet her standards." The screen changed to show screenshots of the family-only group chat. Patricia's message appeared in large font. "We need to do something about the Lillian situation." Derek's response: "I'm working on it. Give me time to figure out the logistics." Gasps rippled through the crowd. People started pulling out their phones, taking photos of the screen. Patricia's face turned crimson. "Those are private conversations," she shouted. "You have no right." "These aren't private anymore," I replied calmly. "They're evidence of a conspiracy. On my 31st birthday 2 months ago, I continued this family gave me divorce papers at a public restaurant. As a gift, they wrapped them in silver paper with a bow and presented them to me while recording my reaction for their amusement. The screen switched to the video Derek had recorded. The footage showed me opening the envelope, Patricia announcing from all of us with that cold, satisfied smile, Stephanie barely containing her laughter. The ballroom guests watched in visible shock and disgust. I heard someone say, "How absolutely cruel." Patricia tried to push toward the stage, but people were blocking her path, too focused on the screen to move. "But here's what this family didn't know," I said. The screen showed Taylor's photographs. Derek and Amanda at intimate dinners, Derek and Amanda entering hotels, Patricia and Stephanie having coffee with Amanda, clearly involved in the planning. Derek had been planning to leave me for his ex-girlfriend for months before that birthday dinner. With his mother's full encouragement and active participation, they conspired to remove me from the marriage so Derek could be with someone Patricia deemed more suitable. Patricia was shouting denials, but the microphone drowned her out. "Really," I said, my voice cutting through her protests. "Because I also have bank records." The screen displayed statements showing Derek's transfers from our joint account. $150,000 moved secretly to a private account over 6 months. Money that legally belonged to both of us. I have email exchanges between Patricia and the family attorney discussing how to leave me with nothing. Those emails appeared on screen. And I have recordings of family meetings where they discussed strategies to push me out. An audio clip played Patricia's voice unmistakable. "We need to handle the Lillian situation carefully but decisively." Richard stood up from his table, his face red with fury. "Turn that off right now," he demanded. "The truth is uncomfortable, isn't it, Richard?" I replied. The evidence kept rolling. Every text, every email, every financial document laid bare for 200 of their closest friends and business associates to witness. "So, happy birthday, Patricia," I said. "Here's my gift to you, complete transparency." I reached into my bag and pulled out a large envelope, placing it prominently on the gift table. "These are the actual divorce papers, filed by my attorney 3 weeks ago. With a full accounting of every asset, every contribution I made to the marriage, and every instance of emotional abuse and financial manipulation this family committed. You'll be hearing from my lawyer very soon." I stepped down from the stage. The ballroom was completely silent except for the sound of my heels clicking on the floor. Then someone started clapping. Slowly at first, then joined by others. A handful of guests were actually applauding my revelation. Most stood in stunned silence, looking at Patricia with new understanding. An elderly woman I recognized as one of Patricia's oldest friends shook her head sadly. "I'm deeply disappointed in you, Patricia." she said loudly enough for those nearby to hear. "This is shameful behavior." Other guests began gathering their belongings and quietly leaving. Some stopped near me as they passed. "Good for you," one woman whispered. "You're brave." Derek tried to follow me as I walked toward the exit. "You've ruined everything," he said desperately. "No, Derek," I replied without stopping. "You ruined everything when you chose your mother over your wife. When you conspired against the person you promised to love. I just made sure everyone else knew who you really are." Jessica linked her arm through mine, and we walked out together, leaving the party in absolute chaos behind us. Amanda had apparently left through a side exit, embarrassed to be associated with the scandal. Patricia stood frozen in the middle of her ruined celebration guests, whispering and staring at her with judgment and disgust. Stephanie was crying in a corner. Richard looked furious and humiliated. Their perfect facade had shattered completely. The fallout from that birthday party was swift and devastating for Derek's family. By the next morning, the video someone had recorded on their phone had spread across social media. Everyone in their social circle saw it within 24 hours. Patricia's phone rang constantly with calls from friends, some sympathetic but many critical. "How could you do that to your daughter-in-law?" Several people asked her. "Did you really conspire to break up their marriage?" Patricia tried to spin the story, but too many people had seen the evidence with their own eyes. Within a week, Patricia was asked to resign from her position on the board of 2 charitable organizations. Her reputation in the community, which she'd spent decades building, crumbled rapidly. People who'd once sought her approval now avoided her at social functions. The country club where she'd been such a prominent member suddenly felt cold and unwelcoming. Derek faced consequences at work as well. His colleagues and clients had heard about his behavior. The man who'd presented himself as honorable and trustworthy was now seen as someone who conspired against his own wife. His professional reputation suffered significantly. Amanda ended their relationship immediately. According to mutual acquaintances, she'd been horrified by the public exposure of their affair and even more disturbed by Derek's weakness during the confrontation. She told friends she'd realized why their college relationship had ended in the first place. Derek lacked integrity and spine. Stephanie became isolated from her social circle as well. Friends who'd sympathized with her own divorce now saw her as someone who'd enabled and participated in her mother's cruelty. She deleted all her social media accounts within days to escape the criticism. Richard, always concerned with the family's public image, was furious with Patricia. I heard through sources that he'd told her to settle the divorce quickly and quietly to minimize further damage. The family's legal team reached out to Mr. Harrison within 2 weeks requesting mediation. They knew they couldn't win in court with all the evidence we had. The mediation took place in a conference room downtown. Derek sat across from me, unable to meet my eyes once during the entire 3-hour session. He looked diminished, somehow smaller than the man I'd married. Mr. Harrison presented our case methodically and thoroughly. Evidence of Derek's affair with Amanda, proof of financial manipulation and secret accounts, documentation of the family conspiracy to end the marriage, screenshots, recordings, witness statements, everything organized and undeniable. Derek's attorney looked exhausted. "My client is prepared to negotiate a fair settlement," he said quietly. "We reached an agreement within 3 weeks. I received half the value of our apartment when it sold, my equitable share of all joint accounts, and a substantial payment compensating me for emotional distress and the attempted financial fraud. The total came to $350,000, more than enough to start a new life on my own terms." Derek also had to cover all legal fees for both sides. The divorce was finalized within 3 months. Quick and clean, exactly what Mr. Harrison had promised. I never saw Derek or his family again after the mediation. Patricia tried calling me once, but I'd blocked her number. There was nothing she could say that I needed or wanted to hear. Stephanie sent an email attempting to apologize, but it felt hollow and self-serving. I deleted it without responding. They'd shown me exactly who they were. I didn't need to give them another opportunity. I used part of the settlement to purchase a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood I'd always loved. It was near my school in a building with character and history. Nothing fancy or pretentious, just comfortable and mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted, with bright colors, comfortable furniture, and artwork that made me happy. No more trying to match Patricia's cold minimalist aesthetic. No more walking on eggshells. Jessica helped me move in, and we celebrated with pizza and wine while sitting on the floor surrounded by unpacking boxes. To new beginnings, she toasted. To true friendship, I replied. I threw myself back into teaching with renewed energy and passion. My third graders didn't know anything about my divorce or my in-laws. They just knew I read them great stories, helped them understand fractions, and made them feel safe and valued. That's what mattered. I started taking yoga classes on Saturday mornings, something I'd wanted to do for years but never had time for. I joined a book club through the local library. I took an oil painting class at the community center. For the first time in 5 years, I was doing things simply because I wanted to, not because I was trying to impress anyone or earn approval. About 14 months after the divorce was finalized, I met someone new. His name was Marcus, and he taught American history at the high school across town. We met at a regional teachers conference during a workshop on innovative classroom strategies. We started talking about our students during the coffee break, and the conversation flowed easily and naturally. He asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime, and I said yes. Marcus was kind, genuine, and funny. He drove a 10-year-old sedan and lived in a modest apartment. He didn't care that I came from a working-class background or that I had a small apartment instead of a mansion. He loved that I was passionate about teaching and cared deeply about my students. When I introduced him to my parents months later, my mother pulled me aside with tears in her eyes. "This one is good. Lillian," she whispered. "He treats you the way you deserve to be treated." Marcus's family welcomed me immediately at our first meeting. His mother hugged me warmly and insisted I call her Susan instead of Mrs. Anything. His father asked about my job and actually listened to my answers. His younger brother made jokes and included me in the family banter like I'd always been there. No judgment, no evaluation, just acceptance. It felt like coming home after being lost for years. Looking back now, I can see that the moment Patricia handed me those divorce papers wrapped in silver paper was actually a gift, though not in the way she intended. It forced me to stop pretending everything was fine. It made me confront the truth I'd been avoiding for 5 years. I'd been trying desperately to earn acceptance from people who'd already decided I wasn't worthy. No amount of effort, no level of dedication, no degree of sacrifice would have ever changed their minds. They'd judged me from the first moment we met, and their verdict was final. I learned that respect cannot be earned from people who've closed their hearts and minds based on prejudice and class snobbery. Some people will always find reasons to look down on others to feel superior to justify their cruelty. That's a reflection of their character, not mine. I learned that sometimes the cruelest moments in life are actually freedom wearing a disguise. Those divorce papers freed me from a marriage that was slowly suffocating my spirit. They freed me from a family that saw me as an embarrassment rather than a person. They gave me permission to stop trying to be someone I wasn't. Derek's weakness taught me what I truly need in a partner. I need someone with integrity who will stand beside me when things get difficult. Someone who will defend me when I'm attacked rather than joining the attackers. Someone who makes decisions based on what's right rather than what's convenient or what pleases their family. Marcus showed me what that actually looks like. Patricia's cruelty taught me that wealth and social status are meaningless without character and kindness. She had money connections and a beautiful home, but she lost what actually mattered. Her reputation was destroyed. Her relationships were damaged. Her son's respect was gone. Meanwhile, I walked away with less money, but with my dignity completely intact. And dignity, I learned, is priceless. I don't carry anger toward Derek and his family anymore. Anger would give them power they don't deserve. Holding on to resentment would only hurt me, not them. They lost their chance to know someone who genuinely cared about family and commitment. Derek lost a wife who would have stood by him through anything if he'd only had the courage to stand by her. Patricia lost the respect of her community and the moral authority she'd pretended to possess. Their greed and cruelty cost them far more than any divorce settlement ever could. That's consequence enough. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction or punishment. It's simply about revealing the truth and letting people see who someone really is beneath their carefully constructed facade. The truth is its own form of justice. I didn't destroy Patricia's reputation. I just showed people what she'd been hiding behind her elegant clothes and charitable donations. Her own actions destroyed her reputation. I was just the messenger, If someone hands you divorce papers as a birthday gift, maybe you should thank them sincerely. Not because they deserve gratitude for their cruelty, but because they're doing you an enormous favor. They're showing you exactly who they are without any pretense or disguise. They're removing the mask and revealing their true nature. And that clarity, that absolute understanding of who you're dealing with is actually the greatest gift possible. Once you see people clearly, you can make informed decisions about who deserves a place in your life and your heart. The rest truly is just paperwork and logistics, and those details have a way of working themselves out once you have clarity about what you want and what you deserve. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been underestimated or mistreated by people who thought you'd just quietly accept their behavior? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself against people who had more money, more power, or more social connections? How did you find the strength to fight back? Share your story in the comments below, because I read every single one and your experiences matter to this community. If this story resonated with you or made you think about your own relationships, please hit that like button. It helps other people who need to hear these stories find them. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I share real stories like this every week. Stories about people who found their courage when they needed it most and stood up for themselves even when it was terrifying. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Someone dealing with toxic in-laws, a difficult marriage, or any situation where they're being treated as less than they deserve. Sometimes just knowing that others have walked this path and survived makes all the difference in finding your own strength. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this incredible community. Your support means everything. Remember that your worth is not determined by people who refuse to see it. Their blindness is their limitation, not yours. Stand your ground when you need to. Document everything when you're dealing with difficult people. Trust yourself even when others try to make you doubt. You know the truth of your own life even when others try to rewrite it. I'm sending you strength, courage, and peace wherever you are in your own journey. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you in the next story.